UDMI is BYD's first attempt at a hybrid, a PHEV that aims to broaden the brand's sales base beyond EVs. It's possibly not the most exciting or engaging segment choice you could make, but value and practicality are both strong points that make this family car worthy of consideration if you're looking at electrification but aren't quite ready for an electric vehicle.
Just when we got used to the idea of Chinese maker BYD being an all-electric brand, along comes this car, the Seal U DM-i, a plug-in hybrid. You'd have thought the opposite approach, PHEV first, then EVs, as rival Polestar did, would make more sense. But BYD has its own way of doing things, as the unusual design of its first 3 EV models showed. One of these was also badged Seal, a mid-sized EV saloon with premium aspirations that we really liked. We're not sure why the plug-in hybrid model we look at here also has a Seal moniker, because it shares virtually nothing with its EV showroom stablemate in terms of looks, price, powertrain or market positioning. As you can see, the U-DM-i is a 5-door mid-sized SUV. The Seal U can also be had as an EV in other markets, but here to start with, we only get this DM-i PHEV version. The DM letters standing for dual mode, BYD speak for designation of the fact that an engine assists the electric drivetrain. What will frighten rival brands about this car is the aggressive price BYD wants to sell it at, and in fully loaded form. So, should you be tempted? And if you're hesitating about switching to that new family EV, might this be a better, more affordable, more usable choice? All good questions. And to answer them, you'll need the usual comprehensive car and driving road test. It's a little-known fact that BYD was the first manufacturer to mass-produce a PHEV, a model called the F3 DM back in 2008 that hardly anyone bought. But the Chinese learned quickly, and BYD can justifiably claim cutting-edge plug-in hybrid technology with this Seal U DM-i. The mid-range front-driven comfort spec version can claim an EV range of up to 78 miles from its 26.6 kilowatt-hour battery, before a frugal, normally aspirated 1.5-litre petrol engine cuts in as you cruise past the queues at your local charging station. Still want that EV? This is one of 3 very different versions of the DM-i powertrain. There's an entry-level model badged Boost, confusingly because its 4-cylinder engine is also normally aspirated. This variant, the one we're trying here, uses the same 215 brake horsepower Atkinson cycle unit as the Comfort model, aided by a single e-motor on the front axle and tuned for economy at low speeds. Boost spec, though, mates this unit with a smaller 18.3 kilowatt-hour battery pack with a still reasonable EV range of 50 miles. There's an EV or HEV button between the seats, so you can force battery power if charge permits it. The other Seal U DM-i model is the top design spec version, tuned very much for performance. Here, the 1.5-litre engine gets a turbocharger and switches to the Miller cycle, aimed at high-speed frugality. Plus, an extra e-motor is added to the rear axle to create all-wheel drive. Power jumps to 319 bhp, improving the 8.9-second 0-62 mile-an-hour sprint time you get with the front-driven models to just 5.9 seconds. The design version supplements the usual Eco, Normal, Sport and, curiously named, Snowfield drive modes with extra mud and sand settings too. The battery on offer is the smaller 18.3 kilowatt-hour one and is supposed to deliver up to 43 miles of EV range. You'll find the drive experience to be very EV-like. The complicated powertrain ensures that there's always a minimum battery charge of at least 25%. But don't expect the engaging driving dynamics we told you about with the Seal EV Saloon. With a curb weight of 1,940 kilos, this is a heavy car and feels it if you start to push the thing through the bends in the kind of manner a typical owner hardly ever would. The light and lifeless steering doesn't help matters either, which is almost equally vague if you switch its setting from comfortable to sport. Nor does selecting the sport drive mode make the car feel particularly responsive. And there's no adjustable damping system to temper the way this car can feel a little floaty at speed over bumps. But does any of this really matter? Sure, other PHEVs in this segment drive more rewardingly than this, but we've yet to try one that felt especially dynamic. And that's fine, because the target family market doesn't really need that. These people will appreciate the more important attributes that BYD has engineered in here. A supple quality of ride and excellent refinement, aided by the thermally insulated windscreen. When it happens, the switch between EV and combustion power is seamless as well. A choice of regen braking settings is provided, standard and high, though even in the latter setting the regen isn't particularly fierce, so one pedal driving isn't on the agenda. The brakes are well modulated too. Ultimately, as we said, it really does feel like an EV much of the time, just one better suited to the years we're currently living in. After the avant-garde design that characterised the Seal EV saloon, the Seal U DM-i is surprisingly conservative to look at, though the Chinese maker insists that it's fashioned using the same ocean aesthetics design language, which is supposedly highlighted by a prominent belt line that runs from the headlamps to the BYD Tech badged tail lights. The 4,785mm length is 15 less than the EV Seal Saloon, but long by segment standards. A Ford Kuga PHEV, for instance, is 140mm shorter, and a VW Tiguan e-hybrid is a massive 246 shorter. There are subtle aluminium roof rails, the chrome framing around the glasshouse looks neat, and there's silver finishing for the lower sill that separates the larger, drag-resistant 19-inch bicolour alloy wheels. Horizontal lines stretch across the nose, which has smart LED headlamps with a double U-shaped illuminating signature and staggered light clusters. There's a silvered lower apron strip, and 4 subtle crease lines feature on a bonnet that flows up towards a raked back windscreen that's thermally insulated and UV protected. The rear is mainly notable for the shallowness of the tailgate's small glass panel. There's one of those trendy full-width light bars which illuminates in a refined water drop pattern, plus a faux lower skid plate and a roof spoiler incorporating a slim upper brake light. Let's take a look inside. Where the cabin's more conservatively styled than is the case with other BYD models we've seen, which we can't help preferring. It's got the usual signature BYD touch, a huge centre screen that rotates between landscape and portrait formats. But this cabin feels of rather better quality than that of the other BYDs we've tried, notably the Seal EV Saloon we tried last year, which is ironic given that this U DM-i model is so much cheaper. It further helps that it also feels pleasantly plush in the single well-stocked standard of spec that you have to have. Nice touches include the crystal gear lever, the green stitched fascia, concealed ambient lighting on the dash and doors, and prominent twin silver centre vents. The doors look smart with their horizontal straking, the beveled finish around the door bins, and their big speakers for the standard high-end Infinity sound system. Inevitably, smudge-worthy shiny piano black trimming does make an appearance. There's a double-stitched dash top, and you view a standard head-up display through a smart stitched 3-spoke vegan leather trimmed wheel that feels good to hold. There's an instrument screen, of course, this one 12.3 inches in size, and as usual with Chinese models, rather busy with information around the 2 outer dial spaces for a power meter on the left and a speedometer on the right. Battery and fuel readings are at the bottom of the display, with drive mode and gear selection at the top. Unfortunately, it can't show the full screen mapping you'll find with rivals, but it is able to display in two formats: twin-dialed Classic or Fashion, which moves the gauges to the outer corners to free up more centre space, in which you can view things like trip data and a timer via steering wheel buttons. Unusually, you can also use these buttons to alter cabin temperature or fan speed. We mentioned the big centre screen, a class-leading 15.6 inches in size. You'll probably soon get bored of rotating it, but you might find the way that you can split the screen between functions or shrink the centre of it useful. The home screen offers 3 circular widget spaces for features you can choose. Here we've got navigation, Spotify and radio. There's the usual Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity, and you can upload videos if you wish. There's a useful quick access feature that more easily turns off some of the more intrusive safety aids. And there's a very complete energy section for all the PHEV related functions. There are no separate climate controls. Unfortunately, these are primarily housed on this centre monitor, which is never great, and particularly so in this case because you have to exit whatever screen function you're in if you're to display them. All-round vision is rather limited by the small, shallow tailgate window that we mentioned earlier, so you'll need the usual parking aids and the 360-degree camera system. But the cooled, heated, power-adjustable, vegan leather-trimmed front seats are comfortable and supportive. As you'd hope, this is a practical cabin with a large glove box, a deep box between the seats with cup holders ahead and ticket clips in the sun visors. There are 2 USB-C ports, and BYD offers vehicle-to-loading charge capability as standard, which allows you to power external items, say a coffee machine or a games console, from the vehicle's drive battery. The door bins are a little small, but like Tesla, BYD thinks you need twin wireless charging mats at the base of the centre stack. Right, the long wheelbase should mean that there's plenty of rear cabin space, so let's check that out. Sure enough, legroom is generous with space for up to 3 adults thanks to the flat floor. The seat base doesn't slide, but the backrest reclines, and there's an airy feel thanks to this standard panoramic glass roof. Twin USB-C ports are provided above this centre cubby, and there's an armrest with cup holders and little overhead reading lights on either side. At the rear, the standard powered tailgate rises to reveal a 425-litre boot that's one of the smaller cargo bays in the class and isn't supplemented with any extra underfloor space to store the charging cables, so they have to slide around a bit on the boot floor. There's a fairly prominent loading lip as well. You do get a recessed area to the left though, and it's helpful that the rear seat backs can be positioned in a more upright stance to get bulky loads in. It's unhelpful that the bench back lacks either a ski hatch or a more convenient 40-20-40 rear seat back split, either of which would enable longer items to be poked through between 2 rear seated folk rather than having to go up on the roof. Other things that BYD unfortunately thinks you don't really need include an adjustable height boot floor, bag hooks and a 12-volt socket, all of which you might just about feel you could live without. More irritating though is the fact that the brand also hasn't bothered to include cargo sidewall catches to release the rear seat backs, so to push them forward you have to go around to the side doors and pull on the provided seat base strap. Once everything's retracted, the seat bases don't fold fully flat, but up to 1,440 litres of space can be freed up. As we filmed in early 2025, prices for this Seal U DM-i were starting from around £33,000, which looks decent value for a PHEV of this size and is well below what BYD wants for its relatively unrelated but similarly named model, the Seal EV Saloon, which costs them around £46,000. The brand provides just one fully stocked UDMI trim level, but offers a choice of 3 powertrain options. That entry-level figure we quoted gets you this base boost version, which has the smaller 18.3 kilowatt-hour battery. You'll be tempted to find the extra £2,000 that the Chinese maker wants to upgrade yourself to the mid-level, longer-ranging comfort version, which has a larger 26.6 kilowatt-hour battery. As for the top design variant, well, despite its £40,000 price tag, that reverts to the smaller 18.3 kilowatt-hour battery, but gains all-wheel drive. These figures significantly undercut obvious rivals. In rough terms, you'll be undercutting PHEV versions of competitors like the Volkswagen Tiguan, the Ford Kuga, the Peugeot 3008, the Range Rover Evoque, and the Toyota RAV4 by around £10,000. The price premium is nearly as great with PHEV versions of the Hyundai Tucson and the Kia Sportage. And this BYD's case looks even stronger when you consider that you'd have to stretch to an expensive trim level with all those cars in order to match this Seal's equipment tally. Even more affordable class contenders, like PHEV versions of the Citroën C5 Aircross and the Vauxhall Grandland, will cost you over £5,000 more before you start adding extra equipment. Even the budget brand MG HS PHEV will cost a fraction more than the BYD in the trophy spec you'd need to be comparable. Ah yes, equipment. This BYD is absolutely stuffed with it. You get big 19-inch bicolour alloy wheels, LED headlights, LED tail lamps, metallic paint, aluminium roof rails, a panoramic sunroof, a powered tailgate, rear privacy glass, power folding mirrors, a thermally insulated UV protected windscreen, high beam assist, all-round parking sensors, keyless entry, a full suite of driving modes, an anti-theft system, an 11 kilowatt onboard charger, and vehicle to load functionality so that you can plug external devices into the vehicle's drive battery. Drive stuff includes intelligent cruise control and, even on the two-wheel drive models, hill descent control. Inside, it's equally well specified. You're treated to heated and cooled seats with vegan leather upholstery and powered adjustment, plus a 10-speaker Infinity premium audio system, a head-up display, a 360-degree surround view camera system, rhythm reactive multicolour ambient lighting, an auto-dimming rear view mirror, an air purification system, a 12.3-inch instrument screen, heated steering wheel, and 2 wireless charging mats. Media connectivity is taken care of by a huge rotatable 15.6-inch infotainment screen, which includes navigation, onboard 4G connectivity, cloud services, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, over-the-air updates, and intelligent voice control activated by the command "Hi BYD." With a kit list like that, there's little need for options. Unlike rivals, BYD doesn't charge you more for most of the available paint colour choices, but there are only 4 metallic shades to choose from: Time Grey, Snow White, Sky Blue, or this Dylan Black. It's a pity there's no alternative interior trimming colour, only black. The Seal U DM-i is equally well provided for when it comes to safety kit. There's automatic emergency braking, forward and predictive collision warning, front cross traffic alert, front cross traffic braking, blind spot assist, rear cross traffic alert, rear cross traffic brake, emergency lane keeping assist, and traffic sign recognition, which drives the intelligent speed limit control. There's also driver fatigue management, child presence detection, and door opening warning, along with a lane support system featuring lane keep assistance, lane departure warning, a lane departure assistant, lane departure prevention, and lane change assist. You also get front, side and curtain airbags plus a front centre airbag, all linked of course to an e-call system. The 18.3 and 26.6 kilowatt-hour batteries used here can be either AC charged at up to 11 kilowatts or DC charged at up to 18 kilowatts. Charging from a DC public charger from 30 to 80% takes around 35 minutes using an 11 kilowatt charger. It's likely to take a bit longer than that with the 7.4 kilowatt wall box your home is more likely to have. We gave you the very class competitive EV drive range figures in our driving section. 50 miles for the 18.3 kilowatt hour base boost model, 78 for the 26.6 kilowatt hour comfort version, and 43 miles for the all-wheel drive design derivative. Those figures rise to 69, 105 and 61 miles respectively in exclusively city driving. And it all means that you should get a very generous combined driving range between fill-ups, up to 671 miles in this boost model, up to 700 in the comfort variant, and up to 540 miles in the design derivative. This boost variant is rated at 26 grams per kilometre of CO2 and has a quoted combined consumption figure of 403.9 mpg, though you're not likely to achieve that outside of a laboratory. The comfort version improves those figures to 15 grams per kilometre and 706.8 mpg, figures that are difficult to better in the class. The all-wheel drive design flagship version will officially manage up to 37 grams per kilometre and up to 282.7 mpg on the combined cycle. In this boost variant, we've got up to 90 mpg at times during this test. Yeah, really. To maximise frugality, you'll need to keep an eye on the dashboard's power meter, regularly select the most frugal of the provided driving modes, Eco, and make proactive use of the regenerative braking system's fiercest high setting. The centre screen's energy section has consumption sections graphically showing your efficiency and what BYD calls your cumulative average energy consumption. There's also a power flow monitor so you can see what's being charged by what. The energy section also has screens for charging settings out and about. The Seal U DM-i DC charges at up to 18 kilowatts, and the mainstream 18.3 kilowatt hour battery can consequently DC charge from 30 to 80% in 35 minutes. It's 55 for the comfort version's larger 26.6 kilowatt hour battery. Home wall box AC charging is up to 11 kilowatts, which means that with an 11 kilowatt three-phase supply, you could get a full charge of the 18.3 kilowatt hour battery in 120 minutes. It'd be 192 minutes for the 26.6 kilowatt hour battery. But your home is more likely to have a single phase 7.4 kilowatt wall box, in which case for a full charge you'd need around 3 hours for the 18.3 kilowatt hour battery and around 4 hours for the 26.6 kilowatt hour model. If you're converting to a PHEV vehicle from a previous conventional combustion model, you'll obviously need to factor in the cost of an EV charger for your home and perhaps also your office. There's still complexity around the best charging hardware to choose and who's eligible for a government grant. And obviously the costs can vary depending on the distance from your main meter to the charger and other factors. There's lots of advice out there, of course, to guide you. We consulted plugmein.com, who offer customers everything from choice of charger to installation and ongoing maintenance. What else? Well, those low CO2 figures mean that this Seal U DM-i is rated at a very affordable 8% for benefit-in-kind tax. Full EVs won't be far off that before too long. And because, unlike a lot of rivals, the two-wheel drive versions of this BYD come in at well under £40,000, you won't have to pay the £410 annual VED tax disc surcharge applied to cars above that price point. In fact, because this is a PHEV, you'll get a £10 VED tax discount compared to ordinary petrol or diesel cars. Insurance grouping starts at 32 for this boost version, rising to group 40 for the top design version. Residuals after 3 years and 36,000 miles are expected to be between 52 and 54%, which is class competitive. There's a better warranty than you get from most rivals, up to 6 years or 93,750 miles, with an extra 2 years for the drive unit and the battery. That battery is covered for up to 125,000 miles and is guaranteed to retain at least 70% of its capacity throughout the warranty duration. This Seal U DM-i may not have a very interesting name, but it's got a more than interesting value proposition and super affordable running costs. Press reaction to this car has been somewhat lukewarm, but that's mainly because, unlike the Seal EV, it isn't very interesting to drive. But then, what car in this class is? Prospective segment customers want a lowering rather than a raising of the heartbeat, something the smooth powertrain of this refined, comfortable BYD impressively delivers. You'll enjoy commuting in it, and you'll enjoy the low commuting running costs even more. EV range and this car's frugality stats are difficult to better in this segment. Yes, particularly if you've seen other BYDs, you might hope for more avant-garde styling and a more charismatic cabin. But for everyone who thinks that, there'll be others who, like us, actually appreciate the conservative, restrained vibe and the plush, smartly built, well-equipped interior, all of which would probably justify a much higher price than the Chinese maker is charging here. At first glance, the Seal U DM-i looks very good value indeed, a proposition which becomes even better when you factor in strong equipment levels that include items that rivals don't even offer as options. In short, we're minded to recommend this PHEV Seal very strongly. Still want that family-sized EV? We try one of these first.